California, beautiful, stubborn, restless. The land where weather rarely changes but fortunes shift overnight. From Silicon Valley's glass towers to the vineyards of Napa, from the deserts near Palm Springs to the neon pulse of Los Angeles, every square mile carries one defining obsession: property. For more than a century, owning a home here has meant making it proof that you belong in the world's most coveted piece of real estate. Yet in 2026, the dream trembles on uncertain ground. Prices remain near record highs, interest rates hover in the mid-sixes, and millions of families teeter between aspiration and exhaustion. So we ask the question that touches every block and every skyline. Will California's housing market crash or rebound? The answer is neither simple nor singular. It's written in economics, policy, climate, and human resilience. To find it, we travel through 14 chapters of history and possibility, tracing how the past 5 years built a market poised not for collapse, but for cautious renewal. It began in silence. When lockdown spread across the globe in early 2020, no one expected a real estate revolution. Yet, as the economy contracted, interest rates collapsed. The Federal Reserve pushed borrowing costs toward zero, mortgage rates fell below 3%, and something remarkable happened: fear turned into frenzy. Confined inside small apartments, millions of Californians reassessed their lives. Space became the new luxury. With remote work suddenly permanent, buyers poured out of San Francisco and Los Angeles, chasing backyards and home offices. Wealthy professionals competed with investors, who in turn competed with each other. In the first 24 months of the pandemic, California's median home price jumped more than 40%. Inventory vanished within weeks. In Orange County, an average listing attracted 20 offers. In Silicon Valley, bidding wars added $500,000 over asking. Builders couldn't keep up, lumber prices tripled, construction labor grew scarce. The cycle fed on itself. Prices climbed because buyers believed they would always climb. But booms burn bright and fast. By late 2021, analysts warned of overheating. Household incomes grew by single digits, while home values sprinted ahead by double digits. It was a race no ordinary wage earner could win. The perfect storm that made fortunes for some was quietly sowing vulnerability for others. Then came the turning of the tide. In 2022, inflation burst back into daily life: fuel, food, rents, all surging. To cool the economy, the Federal Reserve began a campaign unseen in 40 years, rate hike after rate hike. Within 9 months, 30-year mortgage rates doubled, from 3% to more than 7%. That single change crushed affordability overnight. The same $800,000 home that once cost $3,000 a month suddenly required nearly $5,000. Buyers disappeared. Pending sales collapsed. Builders canceled projects mid-foundation. But the crash analysts predicted never arrived. Why? Because homeowners refused to sell. Nearly 9 out of 10 borrowers held mortgages below 5%, giving them up felt unthinkable. Instead of flooding the market, they dug in, trapping supply at historic lows. California entered a paradoxical freeze: low demand and low inventory locked in stalemate. Prices dipped slightly, 5 or 6% in some counties, but never fell off a cliff. The Golden State, once defined by motion, suddenly stood still. Economists called it a housing recession without a collapse. Transactions dried up, yet property values clung stubbornly to their pandemic highs. The whiplash left both sides, buyers and sellers, stunned, waiting for someone else to blink first. By 2024, the stalemate had hardened into what experts now label the Great Gridlock. Picture millions of Californians sitting on mortgage rates under 4%. To sell meant replacing that rate with one almost double. So they stayed put, renovating instead of relocating. Home improvement spending soared even as listings fell to record lows. This lock-in effect became the dominant force shaping the market. Fewer homes for sale meant relentless upward pressure on prices, even with fewer buyers. Real estate agents called it the quietest hot market they'd ever seen. Nothing moved, yet everything remained expensive. Builders couldn't fill the gap. Supply chains were unstable, land entitlements slow, and local opposition fierce. Statewide, California needed more than 2.5 million new units to meet demand, but annual construction hovered below 120,000, less than half the required pace. Meanwhile, migration patterns shifted. Tens of thousands left for Nevada, Arizona, and Texas, chasing affordability. But the majority stayed, clinging to their equity, their weather, and the gravity of California's culture. Underneath it all simmered pressure, pent-up demand from younger households waiting for any break in rates or prices. Analysts compared it to a coiled spring, compressed, tense, ready to snap the moment conditions changed. That moment would come in 2025. The new year dawned with cautious optimism. Inflation cooled from 9% to under 4%. Job growth held steady, especially in healthcare, energy, and technology. The Federal Reserve signaled an end to its aggressive tightening, hinting that mortgage rates could ease below 6%. That tiny shift carried enormous weight. Suddenly, buyers who had paused for 2 years re-entered the market. Mortgage applications ticked upward for the first time since the pandemic boom. In major metros, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Jose, open houses once again filled with quiet excitement. Still, no one expected fireworks. Analysts from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the California Association of Realtors agreed, 2026 would not bring a crash or a bubble, but a long stretch of normalization. Prices might rise 2 to 4% statewide, sales volumes perhaps 3%. After years of chaos, that sounded like peace. Yet peace comes with new responsibilities. The state faces monumental challenges: chronic underbuilding, an affordability gap wider than anywhere else in the nation, and the looming specter of climate risk. The next act of California's housing story would be about equilibrium, finding balance after years of extremes. In the heart of Silicon Valley lies San Jose, a city where innovation and inequality share the same skyline. Median home value, about $1.52 million. That's up 5% year over year despite tech layoffs and stock market swings. Even modest single-family homes command seven-figure prices, while luxury condos push beyond $2 million. But beneath those numbers lies subtle transformation. The frenzy of 2021, dozens of offers within hours, is gone. Homes now stay on the market roughly 3 weeks. 45% experience price reductions. The market is cooling, not collapsing. San Jose's resilience stems from fundamentals: high salaries, global demand, and chronically limited supply. Tech firms continue expanding into AI and green energy. Infrastructure investment keeps talent anchored nearby. And the city's experiment with accessory dwelling unit permits, more than 1,800 filed in a single year, shows how policy can unlock incremental housing without sprawl. Still, affordability remains brutal. A family needs an annual income exceeding $420,000 to comfortably purchase the median home. Many tech workers now commute from Gilroy or Tracy, 2 hours round trip, to own property at all. Forecasts for 2026 suggest continued firmness, prices edging up 3 to 4%, inventory growing slightly as mortgage rates ease, and demand re-energizing among mid-career professionals who sat out the pandemic spike. San Jose, experts say, is too supply-constrained to crash. Its floor is titanium. Drive 6 hours south and you enter a different laboratory of housing, Orange County's Irvine. Here, everything feels intentional: master-planned villages, manicured parks, award-winning schools. Median home value sits around $1.6 million, 7% higher than last year. Yet, despite price strength, the tempo has slowed. Homes average 60 days on the market, double the pace of 2021. Buyers negotiate again, sellers listen. Irvine's stability owes much to its design. Limited land supply restricts overbuilding, while strong public services sustain desirability. Even in downturns, families prize safety and education. But challenges mount. The pipeline of new construction thins as available parcels vanish. Investors target the area for rentals, pushing single-family homes beyond reach for local buyers. Affordability has eroded so deeply that fewer than 15% of residents under 40 can purchase within city limits. Still, 2026 is likely to reward patience. With mortgage rates easing and demand rebalancing, analysts project mild appreciation around 2.5% and steady rental yields. Irvine exemplifies what California may become statewide, a mature market defined by sustainability, not speculation. Los Angeles, California's restless heart. A metropolis stretching from beaches to deserts, forever under construction. In 2025, its median sale price hovered near $900,000. By 2026, that figure is expected to climb modestly to $930,000 as interest rate relief brings hesitant buyers back. Yet Los Angeles is less a single market than 1,000 microeconomies. South LA's starter homes tell a different story from Westside mansions or downtown lofts. City policies now focus on density, streamlining permits for multi-unit dwellings, incentivizing conversions of obsolete offices into apartments, and expanding transit-oriented housing along the metro extension. Homelessness remains an open wound, but new state and federal programs are channeling billions into supportive housing. These projects, though slow, mark a shift from emergency shelters toward permanent solutions. For the wider market, the prognosis is resilience. Population loss has slowed, film, tech, and logistics sectors continue to anchor employment. Los Angeles will likely avoid both boom and bust, coasting through 2026 with moderate price gains and rising transaction volume as confidence returns. Beyond Silicon Valley, the broader Bay Area reveals a patchwork of recovery. San Francisco, once the jewel of global innovation, saw prices fall nearly 10% between 2022 and 2024. But by late 2025 the descent stopped. Remote work emptied offices, yet revitalization followed. Developers repurposed high-rises into mixed-use housing, while city incentives attracted startups in artificial intelligence, biotech, and clean energy. Oakland emerged as the region's affordability anchor, though even their median prices exceed $700,000. Marin and San Mateo remain immune to downturns, buoyed by wealth and limited inventory. For 2026, analysts foresee modest regional growth 1.5 to 3%, supported by easing rates and a partial return to office culture. The Bay Area's next chapter hinges on adaptation, how quickly it can transform obsolete commercial space into livable neighborhoods and rebuild public trust in its urban cores. Far from the Pacific shimmer lies the Inland Empire, Sacramento Valley, and Central Valley, the pressure valves of California's affordability crisis. In these regions, median prices range from $400,000 to $600,000, still steep, yet attainable compared to the coast. Sacramento thrives as the new hybrid capital, government stability mixed with tech industry transplants. The city's population grew nearly 4% in 3 years as Bay Area workers relocated. In Fresno and Bakersfield, agricultural economies sustain steady if modest growth. The Inland Empire Riverside, San Bernardino has become a logistics hub feeding global e-commerce, creating tens of thousands of blue-collar jobs and continuous demand for housing. For 2026, experts expect these markets to lead California's volume rebound, sales up 5 to 6%, prices rising about 3%. They offer what the coast cannot: space, newer construction, and a semblance of affordability. Yet even here, water scarcity and climate threats loom. As summers grow hotter and insurance costs climb, long-term sustainability depends on infrastructure investment and smart planning. Still, for many first-time buyers, the inland frontier remains the last open door to the California dream. In the background of every market metric lies a force more powerful than interest rates: nature itself. Wildfires, floods, landslides, California's beauty doubles as its burden. The year 2025 saw record insurance withdrawals. Major carriers paused new homeowner policies in high-risk zones, premiums in fire-prone counties soared above $6,000 annually. For 2026, the state expands its FAIR plan and mandates wildfire hardening for new builds. Builders adopt fire-resistant materials, defensible space landscaping, and microgrid energy systems. These measures raise construction costs by up to 10% but promise long-term safety and insurance stability. Experts warn that climate risk will increasingly shape property values. Homes outside high-risk corridors could command premiums simply for being insurable. Coastal properties face stricter building codes and rising flood insurance costs. California's next housing chapter, therefore, intertwines resilience with value. A home's worth will depend not just on square footage, but on survivability. Population dynamics are rewriting demand. California's growth has slowed, but its composition is changing. Millennials, now aged 30 to 45, represent the largest home buying force in history. Many delayed ownership due to student debt and high prices, yet 2026's softer rates may open long-awaited doors. Meanwhile, baby boomers, holding roughly 40% of California's housing wealth, are beginning to downsize. Over the next decade, an estimated 1.5 million homes could return to market through generational turnover. That gradual release of inventory may become the single greatest stabilizing force of the 2030s. Gen Z enters adulthood with new expectations: smaller homes, shared ownership models, eco-friendly designs, and mobility over permanence. Developers already pivot, building multi-generational layouts, co-living spaces, and net-zero townhomes. Demography, more than speculation, will shape 2026 and beyond. The California dream endures, but its definition evolves, less about grandeur, more about balance, community, and sustainability. While families pause, investors act. Institutional capital now accounts for nearly 1 in 5 home purchases nationwide. In California, large funds focus on mid-priced suburbs and build-to-rent communities, entire neighborhoods designed for long-term leasing. Some fear this trend erodes opportunity, others see efficiency and professionalism replacing scattered small landlords. The truth lies between. By 2026, regulation tightens. Cities like Los Angeles and San Diego restrict bulk investor purchases, while state lawmakers debate taxes on vacant homes. Meanwhile, community land trusts and co-op ownership models gain ground, keeping local residents in control. The investor landscape also shifts towards sustainability. ESG funds prioritize energy efficiency, affordable housing bonds, and adaptive reuse projects. Profit now pairs with social value, a subtle but powerful evolution. As capital meets conscience, California's property market begins to mature, balancing investment with inclusivity. So what does 2026 truly hold? Analysts converge on a rare consensus: no crash, no bubble, just gradual normalization. Statewide, prices expected to rise between 2% and 4%. Transaction volumes up slightly after years of drought. Mortgage rates easing toward the high fives, bringing thousands of sidelined buyers back. This stability, though quiet, is profound. It allows builders to plan confidently, policymakers to legislate rationally, and families to make decisions without panic. The California housing market is shifting from adrenaline to endurance. The decade ahead will reward patience, discipline, and long-term thinking. Speculators may find little excitement, but communities will find breathing room. If the past 5 years were a lesson in volatility, 2026 is the first chapter of wisdom.